Hey guys, how's it going? So in this vast world of pro audio, I have been saying for years, as someone who has their own home studio and who has been charging bands to record them for years, that you bands out there do not need to hire a big studio or a big producer or engineer to record your music. You can do all of that yourself with just a little bit of time and patience. I'm going to say those two words a lot because we live in a world where people, especially you bands out there, do not have time and patience. Let's play a drinking game with how much I say those two words. With a little bit of research, and again, time and patience, my liver, if we're playing drinking games with this, I'm already 3 drinks in now at this point. But if you have those two things, you can accomplish anything you want. And again, I say that as someone who has a home studio and who has been charging bands for years to record them. So I wanted to really challenge myself for this project and show you guys how easy it is to be able to do this yourselves, again, with time and patience. I'm going to break this series down into 3 phases. Phase 1, I wanted to record a band using no drum samples, no amp sims, and no replacements of any kind in their rehearsal studio. Not a big studio, not the music venue. I want to record their single in their rehearsal studio. And bands, you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about those rinky-dink rehearsal studios that you all practice in, that you are sure there are generations of roaches and rats just dead in the walls. So phase 1 is going to be the recording and editing of that single. Phase 2 is going to be the mixing of that single. I'm going to be using the highest quality plugins that I have to get a studio quality result for this single. And finally, phase 3. We are going to be shooting a music video for this single with my iPhone and only my iPhone. I'm not going to be using my pro grade camera that I'm using to talk right now. I'm not going to be using any rented equipment. I'm going to be using the phone that I keep in my pocket. And before you say it, yes, I am mad for doing this, but hear me out. Over the past several decades, the biggest studios, the most famous studios in the world have been closing down. The studios that are still open require you to put a lot of money down and book a lot of time in advance before you even walk into the building. Then you have to pay for a producer, you have to pay for an engineer, and then you have to pay for the mixing, which can cost you young bands starting out a boatload of cash that you just simply don't have. Now let's flip the coin and look at the positives of this predicament that we're in today's current age of music production. It has enabled millions of people to have studio quality access to tools and plugins and effects that enable them to create amazing pieces of music without having to break the bank. If Billie Eilish can do her entire album in her bedroom with just a keyboard and a really good creative mind, you guys can do this too. Now, for those of you bands that are touring and have high budgets and can afford all the big studios, this series is probably not for you. But for all of you bands starting out, this is how you can get your first single out by yourselves, mixed and created by yourselves without having to spend a lot of money at the bank and buying a bunch of gear. Now, as I just say that, you are going to have to buy a couple of pieces of gear in order to do this yourselves, but what I'm going to do with this series is show you every single piece of gear that I am using and how much they cost by putting them in the description of the video so you can buy it yourselves. And with that being said, let's go to episode 1, which is recording drums. Hello everybody and welcome to a Saturday afternoon. We have the car all packed up with recording gear because today we are recording some drums. Now, a couple of changes to the recording process. I made it very clear to the band, we are not doing the whole play how you feel or the tempo doesn't matter or just playing live. That, we're not doing that. We are playing to a click track. I made them practice the song to a click track and we are going to record to a click track. We are doing this properly. I'm not doing any lazy workarounds with this. And I love working with drummers who can actually tune the kit and know how to play to a click. So Uncle Menace bought a brand new drum set. So I'm actually going to be seeing it for the first time today. So I'm excited for that. And I have a brand new microphone that I'm going to be using for the top of the snare. I'm using the Beta 57A, which is a microphone I got thanks to you guys actually. Your donations and the AdSense revenue from this YouTube channel allowed me to buy that Beta 57A. So thank you guys for that. I'm looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to recording, and let's cut to the studio where we're going to be laying down these tracks. All right, guys, we are all set up here. So let's go through the mic setup. Unfortunately, we are in an area, in a room where we just simply cannot put the drum set in the center of the room. That's just something that we just can't do because all this is all wired up here. So we're gonna work with what we got. Let's give you a tour of this space. It's, I would say it's 10 feet by 10 feet just by looking at it. This is about the size of my old bedroom studio. So we have the drum set right here. It is brand new with brand new heads, and he freshened it up and tuned it. So they sound great. Let's go through the mic inputs. So mic one is going to be the kick. That is an Audix D6. We have top snare. That is the Beta 57A. We have the bottom snare. That is also a 57. And then we just have 57s on the rack tom, floor tom over here. And then on the overheads, we have the MXL V63 M's, and that is the close mics of the drum set. But here is where the magic is going to be. This is the room mic we are using. It is an AKG C214, and it is about, I'd say, eye level with the drummer. If he is standing up, it's going to capture basically the entire room. And what we're going to do is convert this into a fake room mic with all of the reverb in post. There's a plugin that just came out. I'll explain in a future mix video, but what that plugin does is it takes whatever room mic you have and basically reconverts it to a studio huge room sound. So that's what we're going to do with that. So now we're going to get the microphones all mic'd up. I'm going to basically make a makeshift desk right here, and through the magic of editing, let's go to the recording session. All right, guys, so we are back in the studio here, and we're going to present this as sort of a Food Network already made TV dinner. So what I mean by that is, let's take a look at the session in Logic Pro. We have basically the entire song already recorded, almost ready to go for mixing, but we haven't fully edited this session yet. We're going to get to that in a later episode, but for now, since we are only focusing on the drums, let's actually zoom in so only the drums are being shown, and we are going to talk about the rest of the instruments later on as they come in the episodes. Let's make sure all the other tracks are muted. Yes, they are. So let's only focus on these tracks right here, the drums. So let me emphasize a little bit more over what exactly it is that we're doing here. In case I didn't already make myself clear, we are going to be recording an entire single for a band using affordable gear that you can get on Sweetwater or any other music equipment outlet. Again, all the gear that we are using for this project is linked below in the description so you can buy it yourself if you like what you hear. I truly believe that bands these days with, again, here are those two words, time and patience, the bands these days can invest in themselves and for their future. And if you invest in gear and learn how to use it properly and learn some basic fundamentals of recording, you can get some really great results where you don't need to hire a big studio or even guys like me who have home studios and want to record you for you. You can do this yourselves. I'm literally with this project contradicting my need to even exist in the world of pro audio. This is how good technology has gotten these days, where bands, again, time and patience. I really am going to hate saying those two words, but with those two things, a band can really do wonders for their careers and for themselves. So really, this comes down to a couple of things here. Yes, gear does matter, but it also kind of doesn't, in a sense that if you're recording an instrument, an analog instrument like drums, and you're recording real drums, the tuning of the drums matters more than anything. If you know how to tune your kit and you know how to tune it well and take care of your drum set, they will sound amazing. Versus if you just screw in a couple of heads and hope for the best, they're not really going to do you wonders when you're recording them in the studio. So let's go over each channel and what each microphone was. Let's start with the kick drum. That is an Audix D6. Let's go with the snare top. That is a Beta 57A. Let's go to snare bottom. That is an SM57. The rack tom. That is also an SM57. And of course, the floor tom. That is also an SM57. The hi-hat is a Octava MK012. The overheads are MXL V63Ms. And the room mic is a AKG C214. And yes, even though we recorded these drums in a rehearsal space where it was a very dry room, I think it's like a 10 by 10 room. There's really not a lot of room in there, but with thanks to today's technology, I'm going to turn that room into a real sounding room. And really, it's going to emphasize the point where you don't really need a big expensive room or rent a studio to record your drum sets. You could set up a room mic, even though it sounds very dry. With this plugin that I will show you later on in the mixing phase, you can really do wonders with room mics. So as you can clearly see, the rest of the song is recorded, so I did all of my drum editing already. So let me just show you what we did here. So in order to edit drums the best way in Logic, what you got to do is, let's pretend that all this hasn't been edited yet. These are the initial, recordings or whatever. These are my final exported comped edited drum takes, because again, we recorded the rest of the song. So let's just pretend that this drum track is completely raw as it was recorded and not on point with the click. So what you do is you double click the raw file in the session, and it's going to bring up the file menu. You don't want track, you want file. And what you're going to do is you're going to click this button right here, and it is the transient analyzer or the transient indicator. I don't know what it's probably called, but this little button here detects transients. And what you do is you hit the plus and minus sign throughout the track until you can see almost just kick drum hits. You're going to have to go through the whole track here and delete the transient markers that aren't really transients, and you're going to add transient markers that should be there. In general, you're going to have to do this for every track on your close mics at least. So you're going to do the same thing for the snare drum. Let me just show you again what this looks like. And again, if you recorded the drums properly and you recorded them well, this should be very easy because you can clearly see where the snare hits are. So you're going to hit the transient marker and hit minus a few times. That's good to start out with. And then you're going to go through it again and make sure that everything is good. Same thing with the snare bottom. You get where I'm going with this. Once that is done, you are going to group the drum tracks together. So in the mix window, you're going to group them to group 1. And when you group this together, you're going to go to group settings and make sure that editing, selection, and quantize locked audio is selected. That's very, very important. You want that because what this is going to do is anything that you do editing wise with the hits on like the snare drum, for instance, it's going to correspond to the other tracks. So when you're editing drums, you want the kick and the snare top to be the quantize locked tracks. So the beat and the pattern, like and the tempo of the song, when you quantize these and you edit them, these are going to be the 2 primary tracks that you listen to. So I could do an entire video on this if you want. I'm just glossing over my process. So with that, we enter flex mode here. And when you zoom in enough here on the tracks, here is all of my transients that we manually edited in. And then what you can do, like let's say if this snare hit was off right here, what you can do is move it, and you see how every other snare hit is moving in correspondence to this to the moving of this kick transient. You do that throughout the song, and you manually correct the drummer to be on point with the click. When I play this whole thing through, you're going to hear it. It's not perfectly in time with the click. And to be honest, I don't want it to be perfectly in time with the click. I think, and this is going to be a hot take for any of you out there, if you're a prog metal band, you're probably going to think I'm crazy for saying this, but I think for just a straight up rock band, which is what this song is and what the band is, having the drums be just slightly off and, not perfect, it makes it musical to me. It makes me understand that there's a human being playing that drum kit. If you want technical perfection and everything to be precise on the click, I could even delete all this right now, all these drum tracks, and program the drums myself. And I have the hand-eye coordination of 3 blind mice. So if I can program drums and make them sound great and perfectly in time, it kind of defeats the purpose of recording a band to me. But that's just my philosophy. You may be different. So let's get back here. Once I did the flex time and everything is to my liking, what I did then is I finalized my comp takes and I exported the comp edits to a region. If you go into my Finder here are all of the raw audio files that was recorded for this track. So all the good takes, the bad takes, everything. Here is where all my raw files are stored. And I recorded this at 48K wave, if you want to know what I recorded at. And I put all of my final ready to mix tracks in. When you save a new project in Logic, it creates a bounces folder. This is where I save all of my ready to mix track set. So since I already edited the drums and everything is to my liking, I put it here and I re-imported them into the session. And the only thing I did was I cleaned up the tom tracks so everything is nice. So that's all I did. Let's ungroup the toms. Let's ungroup all the drums. And then let's start bringing in all of the drums into one raw mix. And for that, I am going to take off my headphones just so I can hear in the studio monitors a little bit better. So also, most importantly, what I did with these drums before I exported them into what they are now is I used a plugin called Auto Align, and you can buy this yourself. I think it's a fabulous plugin. You put Auto Align 2, and what it does is if you add it on a group of tracks, it adds them for you. All you do is click Align, you play it for like 30 seconds, and it automatically aligns everything correctly in pitch, time. It does this all automatically to correct any phase issues that you may have from recording. So since I did that already, I don't need to do it again, so I can just delete that. And let's start making a drum mix. And by the way, you will notice that everything is in mono. I mix everything in mono so that when I export it and when I'm ready to finalize the mix, I then pan everything. Pan is one of the last things I do when I mix, so that if I can make a good sound mono, it'll sound even better in stereo. But for the sake of, just showing you guys what the raw tracks sound like, I am going to pan it. So let's pan my overheads left and right. Let's pan my tom track 30 left, 30 right. And let's start building a drum track. All right, guys, so that is a drum track ready to go to add more shit to it and make this into a song. With that being said, the next episode will be all about that bass. So look forward to that, and we'll catch you in the next episode in this series.